If it's going right to left, it's good, because then you won't shoot against that road.
The indoor stuff, the stuff in the forest, the planet-based sort of stuff, was shot in Northern California in the redwoods. A lot of it was apparently private redwood groves that were about to be harvested, and that's why they could go up there and actually knock some trees down and stuff, because 3 weeks later the trees would have been gone anyway. It meant, though, that you could do all sorts of things in a location like that. The worst we did was actually take some explosion and blast it up against a redwood tree that we could then put a speeder bike into it, and at the moment when the bike was supposed to hit the tree, we would transition to that explosion that was already on the tree that looked much more dangerous than it actually really was. It was hot, but it didn't hurt the tree at all. So Joe Johnston and I got together and we designed a sequence for it that wasn't quite what George wanted. I mean, what did we know? So he redesigned something that was much more dramatic and filmic. And in order to sort of understand it, I got some G.I. Joe models and a piece of carpet that we'd found somewhere, and some sonnet tubes, some cardboard tubes, and made a little miniature set of a forest that was really crude, wasn't trying to look real or anything like that, but what we did essentially was like an animatic, and made the sequence with these little G.I. Joe dolls.
Roll it.
And that was a really fun sequence to shoot. It started out with Leia and Luke getting on the same bike. Both of them are chasing these two guys on separate bikes. And it ended with both speeder bike guys, I believe, being killed, and Leia's flown off, and Luke is left wondering where Leia is. And that way, I could sort of design what shots look like, which we did for 100 shots that we had in like about the 3-minute sequence. And then I could disassemble that footage and see how many we had looking forward, how many we had looking backwards, and how many shots looking this way, that way, to start to understand how to make it work. How do you actually shoot this? And I didn't want to do it with miniatures because that would have been the easiest. But I wanted to really get out there and have this thing look real. And we had the redwood forest nearby. So the trick, once I had that all figured out, was how do we move the camera through a redwood forest at 100 miles an hour. So I got the idea of using a Steadicam, which had just been invented a few years earlier, which is a camera stabilizing rig. And actually got Garrett Brown, who invented it, who flew out from the East Coast, and we did a test locally here at Samuel Taylor Park, and the thing actually worked. We put a camera on the Steadicam rig, and he walked through at a slow, steady pace, and we shot 1 frame of film every second. So for each step was a 24th of a second, and we got the equivalent of just over 100 miles an hour that way when you played the film back at 24 frames a second. And that meant that I could figure out how to do the whole sequence. So we did the front views that way. Running the film backwards gave us the rear views, same footage, running the other direction. We could mirror image the film, and it looked like a whole different shot. So for one walkthrough, we had essentially 4 angles. And we did a number of walkthroughs, so we had all sorts of combinations. Side shots we did from moving cars, and trucks, which were pretty easy to do, and those were shot in no time. And there were some other shots that were more elaborate, that we had to have more width that we could actually find in a forest. And we found a road, but to cover up the roadway, we just covered it up with dirt and all sorts of stuff so you wouldn't see it, and that's in a few shots. So with those 3 combinations, Steadicam, side view, or going along a road, and a front and rear view on a narrow road that we covered over with dirt and stuff, that gave all the backgrounds we needed. And then it was a matter of cutting them back together again in the order that the animatic had said they need to be. And then it was a matter of going through with the actors and shooting all the right angles against blue screen, and we could put them in, and it would look like when you reassembled it, it all was a dramatic sequence from beginning to end that lasted 3 minutes and 100 shots. So that was pretty neat.